Welcome to our online community where we are helping you get closer to turning content into community. We're going to keep showing you how to do that. But today we have a special guest who's going to be with us on what, again, I consider a special opportunity for us to engage through content. If you want to do your part in keeping this movement going, go to the PushPay app and generously say to God that I believe that the local church is the source of the hope of the world. And we'd love for you to be a part of that and tithing back to God your resources. Last Wednesday was our last food delivery, and that's a celebration because we have impacted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people through our food delivery during the COVID-19 shutdown time. We also, though, are really not done. City Lights will also be organizing a food pantry supply for our schools. You'll be hearing more about that in future weeks. And also, I got to celebrate with you, community, that we as a church created our 10,000th mask this week. Our 10,000th mask stamped with Southbrook City Lights. And those are high quality masks that are now being put into use by particularly medical care personnel. Today we begin a new series, as you've seen already, called One Light. Many of us grew up with that little song, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." Because when this light joins with this light and this light joins with this light, you have city lights that happen. Some people ask me what City Lights is about. It's really about this series. It is about one another. It is about my light shining into the other. If you can't be with the one you love the one you're with, and putting my light into this neighborhood, into this city, into this greater Dayton area. And we're beginning with this one is just, we wanted to start with the relevance of the New Testament command to greet one another with a holy kiss. Now, I've this week been into kissing. I've been into studying kissing just to see what's the history of kissing. Nobody really knows where kissing started. And if you think about it, swap and spit does not seem, even pre-pandemic, like the smartest thing to do. I compare it to who was the first guy who looked at a raw oyster and said, that looks good. I'm going to try that. Now, I wouldn't have been that first guy, but I'm glad he did because I love oysters Rockefeller. And so I'm a fan of kissing. I'm all for it, but I don't know where it came from, how it would have started. Some anthropological psychologists think that the act of kissing, especially lip to lip, came from the mother bird kiss feeding the little chickadees in the nest. And in old days, in the ancient days, mothers used to feed their children with chewed up food. Mom, I'll take a peck on the cheek over that, by the way. But some people think that's where kissing came from. I don't know. But for 90% of the world, there's actually 10% of the world that doesn't kiss. Those people are missing out. But 10% of the world doesn't kiss. For 90% of the world, the act of kissing, it achieves many things. Now, we know there are many different kinds of kisses. There is the customary public kiss, which is what we're going to talk about, the greeting. There is the more private, intimate kiss, and then everything in between that spectrum. But I want you to see something with this. With this New Testament, now in the context of COVID-19 social distancing, the direction in the New Testament to greet one another with a holy kiss, be intentional when you're in one another's presence. It accomplishes 4 qualities. One is attention. I see you. It's very important to today's lesson. I see you. The avatar, I see you. And this is a physical, I acknowledge your presence, but also I see you. Secondly, acceptance. I'm glad to be in your company. So it would be an intentional way to say, I acknowledge you, and then I'm glad to be with you. Thirdly, affirmation. I choose to give you value. Now, our culture doesn't pretty much do, even pre-COVID, the customary public greeting of a kiss. But there are other ways that we say, I give you value. We do it with our eyes. We do it with handshake, fist bumps. Now, at the best we can do is elbow bumps. And then fourthly, affection. I genuinely care about you. And so this is why the New Testament has these commands. Romans 16:16, greet one another with a holy kiss. All the churches of Christ send greetings. Show attention to each other. Show that you accept one another, you affirm one another, and that you have affection for one another. 1 Corinthians 16:20, all the brothers and sisters here send you greetings, greet one another with a holy kiss. 2 Corinthians 13:12, greet one another with a holy kiss. All the saints send their greetings. 1 Thessalonians 5:26, greet all the brothers and sisters with a holy kiss. 1 Peter 5:14, greet one another with a kiss of love. So Paul and Peter were into smooching. You've been smooching with my brother. They were into this. Now, the funny thing with this is even pre-pandemic, the church greetings have always been complicated. You know, you get all kinds in churches. There's the classic handshake. Then there's the dead fish handshake. Then there's the bone crusher handshake. Then there's the I'm large and in charge handshake, which grabs you and brings you the person to you. I call that the Donald Trump handshake. The aggressive high five. The half high five, where we don't know sure what we're going to do. The hug, but then you also have nuances of the hug. You have the behind the back hugger. You have the side hug. You have the bear hug. I've seen in church the sports guy butt slap. I've seen the shoulder squeeze. I've seen the trickster who loves to just fool you with their greeting. And then there's the invasion of the personal space snatcher. This is the person who gets way too close. And if you do that at Southbrook, you're going to be in trouble. Okay. I know some of you, just the fact that I say that, you want to test it. But the point of greeting is I have the capacity to assign value and worth to whomever and whatever I want to. That's the power of greeting. The scriptures are where the phrase, you are the apple of the Lord's eye, or you are the apple of my eye was coined. In other words, if I look closely at someone, I can see kind of my own reflection in the apple, the shape of the apple in their eye. And this means that some of you, when you were younger, you walked into a room and you saw a reflection of your value on how the significant adults in the room responded to your entrance into the room. It really built your personal value. It actually has a lot to do with it. People who do community well learn to express value to other human beings. They are not neutral. People who do community well know it's not enough to be neutral. Hey. No, that Paul says you give attention, you give acceptance, you give affirmation, and you give appropriate public affection, because people who do community well know the power of gesture. And it's so critical right now because we got to maintain social distancing, and yet more than ever, we need to have our presence affirmed as valuable. Now, how do we do this? Where do we start? Because many of you know that one of the things I've said is how this recent volcanic shift in our culture has changed me is I'm being more intentional than ever, in particular people who are black that I see in public and social spaces, being intentional to say, I see you, give attention, affirmation, acceptance, and appropriately affection. I had an example last week of a couple that I intentionally went out of my way in a parking lot to greet, and an amazing conversation happened with that, and I've been doing that ever since. I haven't had anyone say F you yet on that. I haven't had that happen, but here's what I'm trying to do on an interpersonal basis is treat every person you greet as if you were greeting Jesus. Treat every person you greet as if you were greeting Jesus. One of the things I love that my dad taught me, he said, Charlie, always treat famous people like they're normal, and always treat normal people like they're famous. And one of the things I love about my dad, he taught me that you are no more important than any other human being, and you are no less important than any other human being. And if you can communicate people's importance to you, it'll change everything about your life. And he practiced that well. And it's really critical right now because we're in an era where we can't be neutral. We can't be neutral. And as a matter of fact, I'm not just doing this with Black Americans. I'm doing this with white Americans. I'm being more intentional. I am by nature an introvert. And now when I go to a store, it is ministry. Dayton is my parish. And I am going to be one light into somebody's life in here. And if it is somebody of another skin hue than mine, all the better. All the better. As a matter of fact, if I ignore you in Lowe's, it's not because I meant to. It's because if I don't get everything Sherry told me to get when I went to Lowe's, I'm going to be in trouble. That's the only reason. It's because I'm preoccupied. It's not because I don't want to treat every person as I would treat Jesus. Cool story. Luke chapter 7. Jesus is invited to a dinner in the home of Simon the Pharisee. Now, this banquet-style dinner in that culture would have taken place in the courtyard of a community. So everyone in the community could eavesdrop. But as a banquet. It was a banquet. And Jesus, as a rabbi, would have received a rabbinic greeting, which would have been the kiss of peace. That kiss of peace would signify attention, acceptance, affirmation, and affection. And Simon doesn't do it. It is a blatant, deliberate insult. It is not a faux pas. It was an intentional diss to Jesus. Now, Simon may have been saying, I'm just being neutral. I'm being neutral. Not enough. Not enough. And so everyone, both in the banquet and in the periphery of the courtyard, who's watching this going on would have been like, what is Jesus going to do now? The atmosphere is electric with tension. Kenneth Bailey, in his book Through Peasant Eyes, writes, the insult to Jesus has to be intentional and electrifies the assembled guests. War has been declared and everyone waits to see Jesus' response. Well, Jesus doesn't get a chance to respond because what happens next is a woman of ill repute whose life has been changed by the love of the most non-neutral man who ever walked the earth. She has watched the insult happen, and love compels her beyond neutrality. And she, a prostitute, comes into the banquet. Jesus would have been reclining on effectively pillows. And she, in an act of abasement, an inferior person would only wash the feet of the superior. Crying tears, she greets Jesus with a kiss of peace, except she begins to wash his feet with her tears and dry his feet with her hair. It is a statement of non-neutrality. It is a statement of attention, affection, affirmation, acceptance. And it is, Jesus said, he said he would go on to say, whatever you do in life to the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you do it for me. That there is a sense in which how we treat our brothers and sisters, same skin color or not, is how we're treating Jesus. Neutrality is not enough. There must be an intentionality. I see you with my eyes. I accept you and affirm you with my mouth. I choose to give you value with my words. With my body language, I give affection. And if you do that, at an interpersonal level, you're beginning to change the world. You're just one light. But when your light is combined with my light and her light and his light, pretty soon we're city lights. Now, right now, I want you to see how, as a culture, this isn't enough. Interpersonal interaction is a place to start. But we have to have institutional and ideological. We have to have change at a level in this culture that does start interpersonally. But it goes way beyond that. And in a moment, you're going to see an interview I did with LaShanda Sugg. And just open your heart, Southbrook, and listen to how we, by being one light, can begin to change the world.